What's going on, everyone? Mitesh here. You know, one of my favorite things to cover on this channel has always been smartphones, and lately it's much more about budget smartphones rather than flagship ones because flagship smartphones have gotten way too expensive. $1,000 is just not affordable for a lot of people out there. But the budget category also comes with its own problems, and the fact that budget isn't the same for everybody else. So for me personally, a $400 to $500 phone is a great budget phone. But for some of you out there, that may be a really expensive phone that you cannot afford. So today I am covering what I think everyone could call a budget phone, and that is the Nuu Mobile G3. This phone right here costs just $140, and you're getting surprisingly a lot for that money. So today in this video, I want to show you guys what you guys can get for $140 if you're looking for a brand new smartphone for yourself, or maybe even for like your kids or something like that if you just want them to have a spare phone so you don't have to constantly give them yours. I want to show you guys what you guys can expect with a phone like this. Alright, so we have to start off by talking about specs because, as you know, if you're paying 1/10 the price of a flagship phone, you are not going to get the latest and greatest specs, and that shows here. So in terms of the biggest difference between this and a flagship phone, it's going to be in terms of chipset. So you're not getting a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 series or even a 600 series, which you can see in more mid-range phones like $300 and $400 phones. Instead, here you're getting a MediaTek processor, which is one that not very many companies use, but it's still I would call a reputable processor. It's one of the better known ones that more budget phones tend to get. So this phone is rocking a MediaTek Helio P25 chip. That is a 8-core, although it's 4 performance cores and 4 little, mini cores so you can save battery. So it can put out some decent power out there. You can actually game on this surprisingly well, which I will have a separate video on because I know some of you out there might, like I said, if you're giving this to a kid, you might care about how the gaming performance is on it. So yeah, with this chipset, you're still getting a decent amount of power, but I'll be honest, I've been using this phone for a little bit, and I will say it's not the snappiest phone or the buttery smoothest, whichever one is your favorite metaphor. It is not that when it comes to performance. It is surprisingly good. Like, I don't know, maybe I just had low expectation going into this, but I found it to be surprisingly decent. It's not the fastest. Like, for example, if I try to launch the camera, it'll vibrate to let me know it's gotten it, but it takes a second to launch it. And then if I try to use the fingerprint reader, like, it's just a little bit slower than I will like it to be. But hey, it does have a fingerprint reader for $140. That's pretty awesome. So some other things you want to know: it's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is reasonable. It's got 64 gigabytes of storage, which is fantastic, and it also has micro SD card expandability. So especially if you want to use this for gaming, you can actually kind of do it. And like I said, I will have another video about that, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And some other specs to know: so the display on here is a 5.7-inch LCD display. I don't expect OLED for this price. I don't expect OLED for like $400, but you got that with the Pixel 3a. So yeah, the display on here gets reasonably bright. The colors are not accurate at all. I've watched some videos on here and I was like, the colors are just completely off from displays that I would consider more accurate. So definitely not in terms of display. It's decent. The colors pop, but it's not very accurate. So I wouldn't use this for like photo editing. And speaking of photos, though, I wouldn't recommend taking photos with this at all. So it's got a 13 megapixel and a 5 megapixel dual rear camera, though the 5 megapixel camera is only for depth sensing. So you only have one 13 megapixel camera, and it is just okay. Like, if I take a picture right now, it's gonna be good because it's in good daylight right now, but if I take it indoors, the picture is just not very good at all. And I will show you guys some samples right here so you guys can take a look. And what's even worse is the front-facing camera. So this is supposedly a 13 megapixel front-facing camera, and I don't know, it might be, but the thing is, this thing is the slowest camera I've ever used. I hit the shutter button, and normally you hit the shutter button and it's already taking a picture, and it flashes the screen for a second, but then I start looking down and then it captures that image instead. So it is not a very good camera. It does have a LED flash in the front too if you guys need that. I don't know, I don't find that to be a very useful feature, but sometimes it comes in handy, especially if you're trying to record like video at night. You can turn on that light so you can see yourself. But yeah, other than that, in terms of cameras, that is, I would say, the biggest disappointment about this phone. Everything else to me, has been surprisingly good. Actually, speaking of disappointment, I did forget to mention one thing, is the fact that this phone doesn't have a headphone jack. I mean, guys, this is a $140 phone. How can it not have a headphone jack? Like, they're expecting you to go out and buy another pair of headphones. Like, they do include a dongle in here, which this phone uses USB-C, so you get a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter dongle. But come on, like, just make it a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack in here. Like, you have the space in this thing. I don't know what they're thinking. They really should have just put that in. Another downside in terms of audio is the fact that you only have a single bottom firing speaker, and it is pretty garbage. So watching videos on this, I mean, it's tolerable if you're, especially for a quiet environment, but if you're in a loud environment, you can't do anything in here at all. It just sounds very tinny. I don't enjoy the audio aspect of this thing. But yeah, those are some of the biggest disappointments about this. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about the LCD panel. So this is actually a 720p screen, so it's a 1440 by 720 resolution, so that's 18 by 9 aspect ratio, so it's an extra tall screen. So if you actually watch my videos on here, they fill up the entire screen. But it is a 720p resolution. I don't consider that a big deal, honestly. At this screen resolution, you can't, it's really okay. Like, I mean, if you look at the iPhone XR, that has essentially a 720p screen that's stretched out to 6.1 inches. So this being 5.7 inches at 720p, I think it's perfectly fine. I think most people will get over it. Honestly, I don't think most people will be able to tell the difference unless they had the screens side by side, which most people won't. So I don't think that's a big deal. In terms of build quality, this thing is surprisingly well built. It's a very light phone, so they actually have two models of this phone. They have the G3 that I have, and they have the G3 Plus. The only difference I can tell between the two phones is just the battery. So this thing has a, I want to say 3200 milliamp hour battery, and the G3 Plus has a 4000 milliamp hour battery. So yeah, if you can, the G3 Plus is only like $20 more expensive. Definitely go for that model. This is the one that they sent out to me, so this is the one I'm reviewing, but definitely go for the Plus model if you can, because it's worth it. The just extra battery is definitely worth it. So yeah, because of that, there's actually no physical difference between the two. I think they just have like some empty space in here, and it's pretty light. It's not that bad. But what's nice is it is made from premium materials. You got glass on the back, glass on the front, metal on the sides. So it's pretty premium material. At the back, it does get fingerprints like crazy. They do include this extremely thin, let's see if I can find it, this extremely thin garbage case in there with it, which, you know, it's nice to see that they include a case, but the problem with this case is it doesn't even cover any of the lip of the phone, so if you drop this on its face, it's gonna get cracked. So my advice, get the 2D case that I have linked in the description if you guys are interested. It's definitely the one that I would pick. It's the only company that makes a case for this phone, so you don't really have much options. I would get that one. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything I want to cover in this video, just telling you guys about what you can expect for $140. But in the next couple videos, I'm going to be covering the performance of this phone, covering gaming, like I said, and then I will actually do an in-depth review of the cameras. I'm telling you, they're garbage, but you may as well see for yourself what they're like. Like this one if you liked it, subscribe if you guys loved it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!